We're going to start off with a little 5-star buzz. Take us behind the scenes of what was a crazy kind of 72 hours leading up to that Jackson Cantwell commitment.
Well, I talked to Jackson Cantwell about his commitment to Miami on Wednesday morning, and he told me that Miami led in March going into April. Then Georgia took the lead in April going into May. And at the end, it was the Hurricanes rallying back and winning this recruitment. It was a combination of things that obviously lead the number one recruit in the On-3 industry to Coral Gables. And I know everybody loves to point to the NIL and Miami having the biggest offer on the table of $2.5 million. And it obviously very exciting opportunity for Jackson Cantwell in that regard. But he also talked about how Miami just out-recruited everybody, how he talked to the Miami staff more than any other program, more than Georgia, more than Oregon, more than any of his other finalists, which include Michigan, Ohio State, and Missouri. He pointed towards Coach Mirabel and Coach Cristobal's track record of developing offensive linemen, how 3-and-done first-round draft picks. Coach Cristobal was able to point to that several times in the course of his career. He said everybody's got money. He said, yeah, Miami's good at NIL, but so are the other programs. And these schools aren't bidding against each other. I think that's always the funny thing. Or excuse me, these schools aren't bidding against themselves. So it's always funny when you point the finger at one school and say, well, he took the bag or he took the biggest check, and people are very judgmental with that. Like they don't take the highest paying salary job that they can get at times. But Jackson Cantwell wants to play in the NFL. He wants to be a first-round draft pick. Miami has a track record of that. He enjoyed building relationships with these college staffs on the next level. No program recruited him harder than Miami. And then certainly Miami stepped to the table in a big way on the NIL front, and he's in an era where he can cash in on that. And he is a Hurricane. Miami is up to number 8 in the On3 industry recruiting rankings. They're going to push for a top 5 class. Jackson Cantwell certainly gives them momentum going into the summer. And one thing we know, with the rest of Miami's top targets, Mario Cristobal and that staff is not going to be out recruited. They are going to be in daily communication from now till the end of the summer. So if you are recruiting against Miami for some of these coveted targets like Derek Cooper, you better bring your A game, because Miami has a lot of momentum right now and they're pushing hard.
Yeah, I love where Miami's at on the trail. They move into the top 10, sitting there at number 8 currently, and they're looking for more. All right, let's stick with the 5-star buzz, because we've had a couple major developments in the recruiting world. Linebacker Xavier Griffin out of the state of Georgia, committed to USC for some months now, decommitted despite USC fans in the comment section of all these YouTube videos saying it could never happen. Boy, it happened. Xavier Griffin now on the open market. Steve, who are some of the contenders to land him?
Well, I heard that USC is looking to invoke a non-visit policy with their commits. And so Xavier Griffin wanted to take visits. So the two parties have parted ways. It'll be interesting to see what that means for USC over the rest of the cycle. That also happened with the recent receiver who decommitted, Cone Brown, from the Lone Star State. So USC, if you are committed to the Trojans right now, it's like the same thing at Clemson. You're not taking visits elsewhere. Xavier Griffin wanted to take visits elsewhere, so he'll do that. And USC has moved on as well, and they'll be recruiting another linebacker pass rusher in the 2026 class to fill his shoes. There are contenders for Xavier Griffin. I think that this is a recruitment that's also going to have some major NIL implications. Georgia's looking to get him on campus this weekend for the scavenger hunt. I think they trail. I think you got to look immediately at programs like Texas, Ohio State, and Alabama in this recruitment. And then there's others like Tennessee and Florida State involved. And, you know, NIL is going to be a real factor in this recruitment, among other things.
All right. We will continue to watch Xavier Griffin now he's back on the market. Let's talk about a new prediction. A 5-star prediction on offensive tackle Immanuel Iheanacho. This came as the dust had not settled yet on the Jackson Cantwell commitment to Miami. You put in a prediction for Iheanacho, the number 2 ranked offensive tackle, to land where, Steve?
At Oregon. And I felt like Oregon's been the leader for a while, but I just didn't log that prediction because I wanted to make sure that Jackson Cantwell ended up at Miami before I logged that prediction. Oftentimes, readers would like to say at the end, oh, Wiltfong, he changes his prediction right at the end to make sure that he's right. But oftentimes, in some of these tight recruiting battles down the stretch, one of the reasons why you have to wait until the last day to make that change is because these recruitments are so close, and you don't know how this five-star or that elite player is going to wake up and feel, even though you got a good feel for Miami the day before, which we wrote and talked about on the Wiltfong Whip Around and on 3. What if it would have went back to Georgia? Then you got to make another flip-flop. If we made the RPM picks and stayed with every turn, man, readers would be going crazy, like these young men don't actually change their minds. So I wanted to make sure that Jackson Cantwell ended up at Miami and not at Georgia or Oregon, obviously, specifically in this case. And the Ducks were pushing to the end before predicting Iheanacho to Oregon, because I just don't see how they could land both and be able to afford both. But Iheanacho, the number 2 player in the country, someone that Oregon has had to campus a couple times, they are the leader. It's been a fluid recruitment. Georgia's been a leader for Iheanacho. They're not even a finalist. So that's how fluid this recruitment's been. Maryland's been a leader, but now you have Oregon, LSU, and Penn State in the top 3, I'm being told. I think he loves Oregon, loves Coach Terry, loves where they're at as a program. Obviously, what Oregon brings off the field from an infrastructure standpoint. So once Cantwell followed through with everything and committed to Miami, I was able to log my prediction in favor of Oregon for Iheanacho, knowing that they could still be on the gas for him. If they landed Cantwell, I don't think they would land Iheanacho.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you guys chime in. Let us know, where do you think Xavier Griffin and Immanuel Iheanacho are going to go now that number 1 Jackson Cantwell is off the board? Talk to us.